All right, let's take a look. This is video number 2, dealing with Google Drawings. So in video 1, basically just talked about the basics, how to get started, how to manipulate things like inserting images, shapes, things of that nature, basic menu structure. That's really about it. So I wanted to then provide some more concrete examples, and so that's what we've got here. So all I did to get this is I opened up a new Google drawing, and for this example I went to insert image, and then I searched the web, and for this I think I typed in a map of Indiana, maybe, yeah. And so that's how I searched to find this particular image. I personally wanted one that had pretty much nothing on it but the counties. So I inserted that image. So one of the things you can do with Google Drawings is you can create interactive maps or interactive posters. And so I wanted to show you kind of the basic details of how to accomplish that. In this case, is an interactive map. This is not something that I would say a teacher's creating necessarily. I would say that this is something that you would have students do. So whether you teach a social studies class, a history class, world history, Indiana history, whatever it may be, there are a lot of different applications here. So for the example here, I've got a state of Indiana, and what I'm basically, let's say for example, I've seen this done hundreds of different ways, but one thing might be for the students who are studying Indiana history, for example, to make an interactive map or a clickable map, and maybe their assignment or task is to provide some background information about selected counties or even each and every county in the state. Okay, so obviously that would make for potentially a pretty big project. What we want to do is make this map clickable, meaning that when you click on a county, it is going to then provide additional information. So basically, for the more tech-savvy folks, all we're going to do is hyperlink the counties. And so if you're not super tech-savvy, I'm going to tell you what the heck that means. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go Insert, and I'm going to go to Shapes. And I'm going to choose, because it's the easiest one, I'm going to choose a square or rectangle. Now I've got this crosshairs, and that means that I can now click and drag from top left to bottom right to create a rectangular square. And so I'm going to pick Marion County, and I've got my crosshairs there, and I'm going to click and drag. And so now I've made a little square. And I can adjust this guy a little bit once I get the arrow, pull that over. Oh, I need to move it a little further north. There. Okay, that's about right. It's not perfect. But I've made this. This is basically what's going to be linked. So now let's say the assignment was to, let's see, a monuments. Maybe you want monuments that are located in each county. So there's a couple of ways you can accomplish this. I'm going to then go to a new tab, and this is what the student would be doing. Like, you've created the task and the student's going to do this. So I'm going to search for monuments in Marion County, Indiana. And obviously there are a lot of different ways that a student could go about doing this research. So they're going to now, oh, there's a site that I like, Indy.gov, Monument Circle, right? So student finds a good, reliable source, and this is the monument they've chosen. So they click up here and they go copy, Control or Command C, and now they're going to come back to their map and they're going to select the shape that they put there. And now that it's selected, it's got the blue outline. Now they're going to go to hyperlink. It's the little thing that looks like a chain link. They're going to click that. and they're gonna paste that link right there. Paste it right in. Now this guy is linked, meaning that when I click it and then click the link, it will open up a tab and take me to that website that I just went to. So you might be saying at this point, okay, great, but what about that big blue square covering Marion County? Pretty easy stuff then. Now we're going to take this. Since it's selected, we're editing this thing. Fill color, transparent. Oh, that's better. I do still have that black outline though. Next button over, next to the fill color of the shape is border color. I'm going to hit transparent on that. Now I've got a target, an invisible target, right there over Marion County that is going to click and link out to a new website with additional information, in this case about Monument Circle. So imagine creating a task with a map of really anything or an image of anything, and having students do that same process. Create a target, make it transparent, link it to additional information. Okay, so you theoretically could have students choose 5 counties, choose 5 countries, choose 5 parts of the cell, whatever it might be. In this case, obviously you can see, and this came up in our training, like, well, what about some of these counties down here in the southern part of the state that are definitely not rectangular or square? You're going to have to get a little bit creative, but ultimately you're also going to want to basically do your best. All right, can you freehand and draw? Yes, but it's a little bit wonky. So, you know, for example, if I'm down here in whatever county this is, way down here in the tip of the state, I would probably still just do a rectangle and cover up most of the state, or most of the county. And so you can imagine at the end product, you're going to have a map that is, you know, fully clickable and interactive, and links out to additional information the student has researched about, in this case, the monuments in the state of Indiana. So that's one application. Let me go ahead and show just a quick example. Similarly, the example we always use when we present at conferences with this is the cell. You know, an animal cell or a plant cell. So I'm going to go insert image, search the web, and I'm going to type in plant cell. Now, you're asking the kids to basically, in this example, you want them to label the parts of the cell. Well, guess what? We don't want to use an image that is already labeled. So I'm going to skim around and I'm going to look and try to find one that is not labeled. Not having much luck. Here's the reason why. Google filters based on copyright. So the only things that you're seeing here or that a student is seeing are things that are open resource. That does limit the results. So that student could go and find a plant cell on a regular Google search, but they would probably be violating copyright a little bit, or a lot, or completely. So let's do skeleton. Skeletal system. All right. I think that's a horse. What is that? Yeah, okay. So let's say, just for the sake of this example, which, yeah, I'm gonna get that centered. And you've asked students in maybe an agriculture class, or maybe it is an anatomy and physiology class, or a pre-vet course, to label some parts of this skeletal system. Can you do some labeling very easily? Absolutely. So I would maybe, could do it a couple of different ways. Could I insert a shape and then go to arrows and then pick an arrow that works for me and do something like that? Yep. Could I double click on that and label that particular bone? Absolutely. Right there. Could I do the hidden target thing again? Yes, I can. So let's say maybe I insert shape and insert a shape. Bingo, says my roommate. And I'm going to put that shape right here over the cranium, and I'm going to adjust the angle. See this little dot with the crosshairs? That can change the angle. And I'm going to try to hover that just as much as I can over that part of the skeleton. And again, I'm going to do the same process. I'm going to select it, fill color, transparent, border color, transparent. And now when this thing is selected, now I can hyperlink this the same way. So a couple of different applications. So be thinking about in your classes any labeling, any coloring of maps, any ID of places geographically, diagrams. I mean, when you get into the diagramming like this, you're looking at all sorts of applications to a lot of different science classes, medical classes, in medical terminology. You're having students label these things with their, the medical term. And so there are a lot of different opportunities here. I had a health class that was studying the brain. And so they did the same thing with labeling the parts of the brain, and then they linked out the parts of the brain to different illnesses and conditions that were related to those parts of the brain. They'd already studied what each part of the brain did, what its function was, and so this was sort of an extra going beyond sort of an enrichment project that the teacher did. And it was okay, if we're talking about the medulla oblongata, that link it to something out there, that is going to talk about conditions that are relating to that part of the brain. So lots of different opportunities here. Again, this is something that you would sort of assign as a task, and then you would maybe give them a little bit of guidance on just how to make that invisible target, and then let them go. And they'll be able to produce some pretty great stuff. So hope that helps. And if you have any questions, let me know, and I'm happy to help.